Welcome to the Behavior Code, soon to be renamed perhaps IMC Nation Live. Perhaps what are some of these? What are these names here? The Modern Monk. Those are the two top ones. So this is, but it's Behavior Code until it's not. Welcome. I'm Yogi Chris, PhD. We just finished phase 1 camp, and I was going to talk about it. I was going to bring up phase 1 as a philosophy. I was going to, well, first, what is that phase 1? First, this podcast is the IMC Nation Live. I just don't know if I'm going to use that brand name for it, because all it's been since the beginning was interviewing guys that had done a major event. They're known in the community of guys called IMC Nation, or the male portion of IMC Nation, and giving their perspectives on their training with Arash, who the founder of IMC Nation. And starting from, and when nobody would arrive, or when nobody was available, it was a solo episode with me, but talking about, and that's occasionally I've done episodes on like male female psychology or whatever, evolutionary psychology, and that's a backbone of this. I've also done an episode on mystery method. I've also done mind control and hypnosis. I basically go through all of the subjects that are covered, and always the conversation with IMC Nation. That's who shows up. It's IMC Nation, and it's people that are following me in Ninth Limb. Mostly females are the only ones that are sticking by Ninth Limb, and I got no problem with that, because the guys that will come to yoga are going to be made strong through the IMC Nation philosophy. There's nothing in the yoga philosophy that makes people strong. Now, it makes you spiritually strong, and in the sense that you'll have a conviction of what you're doing, but that doesn't mean that what you're doing is fulfilling. We can limit ourselves, like the post that I put with the bird and the cage around its head, where it's like the bigger cage is open and it steps out and it's looking out the window, and it has a smaller cage still around its head while it looks out the window, because in its head, it's still in the cage. And so a lot of like yoga and spirituality will do that to the person, where you may in a analogous way, so in a similar kind of metaphorical way, where you'll feel so spiritually liberated and free in a confined belief system. And in a way, there's the downside and the good side of that. The downside is how it sounds, where basically a person just makes peace with mediocrity and doesn't strive for more, but becomes fully content there, which is not really admirable. It's very selfish, just so that person doesn't need to deal with the suffering of like growth and progress and all the shit that goes with that. But then there's the upside, like what we did with quarantine, was we became a monk by choice on a prison planet, because we were confined to not being social. And so we found that spirituality in that, where we were suppressed. And that's what we are always doing. We're finding infinity within what we're able to do, and we're pushing the horizons and whatever. But it's not being contented with what was given to me as if that's all I'm supposed to get. That's not what God intended for me, because I have desires for more. And why would he give me those desires? And if it's that humans gave me those desires, well, humans are telling me not to follow those desires now. So it's just humans are fucking confusing me. They're telling me one thing and then telling me another thing. And I think it's like the news, where they just get you caught up in the drama of it instead of just doing one or the other. So we finished phase 1, and phase 1 was what was started a year ago as this kind of answer, the solution. The problem of quarantine was solved. The mathematical problem of quarantine, of suppression for speaking the truth, of social dynamics in person being shut down, was the phase 1 of the beast by AZD IMC Nation. It was the lifestyle that just oozed and dripped higher value as a humble monk. All the money that all of my friends made went to AZD and their living expenses. They monked out and made enough money to live as well as anybody next to them, but they spent it all on this evolution, where on the other side of it, they came out essentially a demigod compared to everyone that knows them. They just don't know yet because maybe they haven't been tested yet. You only know how strong the person is when they lift the weight. And everyone will see the people that trained a month with monk attitude, floor sleeping. We've gone through it all. We've gone through it all because the skeleton of what to do is not the phase one. Daniel Newberry is here. He's on Clubhouse. He's coming to us from Clubhouse. He can tell you after doing the phase one, we did phase one. Let's say Jason Phillips or Josiah, they're here and they did not come to this last phase one event, but they did June, July, August, September, October, November, January. Like they got 6 or 7 phase one when it was raw, when it was fresh. In the evolution of it, they even came here live. Josiah a couple times at least. And from Hawaii, not easy. So they got that phase one badge. But the guys that just did it got to take advantage of a vast synthesis and 5 perspectives, everyone giving their all. And the key code access was given. And now all that's needed is the people put in the work, knowing that they're the second class to do it. So that means that there's no excuses really. What an interesting psychological situation for them. It's literally like the creation practically of imagine West Point is the military academy for the United States. Now, let me look this up. My father graduated from West Point. That's how you graduate as an Army officer. It's the Army branch. There's the Naval Academy. There's the Air Force Academy. The West Point is the Army Academy. It's called West Point. It's not called Army Academy. Let's see. West Point. When do you say started when? When? I don't know how to say that in another way. 1802. Okay, so it was after the War of Independence, very soon after. But it was started. It was started as what? Like a building with people that would come and train and what did they do in the beginning? And I'll bet there was even something before it was officially established where people were doing that. Now, 230 years later, it's like it's that branch of the military. That's not necessarily what this is because the paradigm of the planet is changing. But there was one class. There's a second class happening now? So there'll be a run of some phase one camps. Right now, 24 people or whatever did the first phase one camp. A lot of them will repeat because AZD gave a massive discount of just like $100 to come online for anybody that did the phase one this first time around. So they're basically on for life. If they don't do that, that's stupid. They should do $100 every camp and get updated for 3 or 4 phase one camps, and then they'll get it. And phase one is so vital because it taps into your ability to transform, to adapt to what plagues your consciousness and whatever's holding you back from within. You tap that, and like when you tap an oil reserve or you tap a beer keg, you relieve the pressure of it. It creates an outlet for it. And then you have more space inside. And now you can shift around and move around and adapt more and shape shift more inside. And it's this process that generates more space. It is like a yoga. It's like the warrior's yoga, not fully informed with what it takes to therapy the wrists and the hips and everything, because it's a pretty aggressive routine. The official phase one routine has an official calisthenics to it. You can do your own stuff, but this is the code, the program that makes it in the most maximum security prison. This is what the phase one event is. The next phase one event we have is July 23 and 24, July 23rd and 24th. And so the whole philosophy is that. And if you sign up for that, at some point, I don't know if I'll do an expiring offer. Right now, I'm offering my Lion's Den book of notes with the sign up so that you get the first 248 lectures all summarized. It's like a 60-page book. You get real quick upload of what are the bullet points of the method as it evolved in the first 9 or 10 months of it. That's how many lectures it is. It'll catch you up to March, basically, from the beginning. So that's a real basic core template. So I want the guys to succeed because it's a process, it's a teaching, it's how to apply stoicism to your life, to change your negative energies and to change your body, to change your confidence mechanically, to be content in your confined quarters, while at the same time become strong, not become weakly confined and content, but empowered content. Somehow, if you were to leave prison stronger than when you entered, but both mentally and physically, and more capable of living outside. It's the routine that could do that, because it comes with the philosophy that will make you a force to be reckoned with. And then there's, of course, phase 2 and phase 3 of the beast. There's phase 1. So phase 2 will make you more adapted to making money. It's about making money, hunting that money, getting it, coming home with a big harvest of money that you went out there and you found, yield. And then phase 3 is basically making your own religion. You have the yin and the yang of what you're doing. There's the regenerative and money making, and there's the the empowering and the reforming and reshaping of phase 1. The phase 2 is the money making, the regeneration of the body. And phase 3 is making us this spiritual practice of the both. There's a balance between the two, that as you do this, you start to see all of your interactions and all of your time spent is needing a balance. There's a balance in here, and the balance is not going to come where you're like shifting around leadership roles. There's a hierarchy in life, that there's the spiritual aspect of you as an individual, but then there's this hierarchy that's built on the alpha code. And the peak of the alpha code is phase 4. Phase 3, it becomes this like spiritual journey or this spiritual quest to balance out your beast with your how you could say like your healing and regeneration. Your yang with your yin. And then phase 4 is going to be this hierarchical understanding, this code, this behavior code. Phase 5 is very advanced, and I would only come at it with a conceptual understanding, is really pulling that wisdom, that genetic wisdom of the hierarchical structure of our as a social organism, tapping into the language, the behavior of what organizes us as people, and pulling that into your identity as if you are it. Integrate it with your beast, but then starts the cycle again. It says as soon as you get to phase 5, then it's going to flip back to phase 1. And that's where we're at now, 12 months after we started. Phase 1. Now we have an advanced phase camp coming up, but you really want to get phase 1 first. That's going to give you what you do at home, what supplies you need. What do you need to be doing so that you get part of the rhythm of everybody? You can get into your own wheel and be generating your power and take control of this thing called a mind and a body that was just kind of given to you, that you, maybe you don't have all the dashboard buttons and the user's manual of how to navigate this thing from the inside. Attitudes and emotions come, laziness or complaint attitude. I don't want to be at the whim of this like bio machine. And who am I going to go to for advice? They're wimpy. They're wimpy and they don't get good relationships. They're pathetic. And where were they when the world was getting awakened on the human trafficking and pedophilia and all the shit that's about to get my podcast censored right now? If it goes out right now, it's the censorship. So they're all weak and pathetic and have no stance. They're not cool either. And that, so you could go and find biohacking and lifestyle development and personal, you know, whatever growth seminar, everything, all the stuff that has basically similar themes, you could say, but it's going to lack what you need as a man and what you need as a woman. What you need as a woman is a man like me that will lead you. That will lead you not because I'll hold your hand and talk you every step of the way, but because I know many steps ahead. So here's the next step for you. And here's the next step for you. And how to converse in a way that would make you want the next step from me and from me. Right. So that phase 1 tech, and then you apply it. It's something you practice for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and you tap in. And when you circle back around, you're going to be tapping in again from a different perspective. It's almost like growing up, I had a wrestling season, and the next season I had another wrestling season. And you would go through this wave of like, there were the peak times of the year, there were the off times, there were the, you know, there was an alternative season that had like a different kind of rules and different style, but it wasn't associated with the schools, the division of the college or whatever. So it was like off season kind of stuff. So there was a cycle, a yearly cycle. There was the downtime where you were just like at home fishing or whatever. And, you know, in any sport, that's what it was, running cross country or soccer. There was this like yearly cycle. And so the beasting has this cycle. It's like, it's in season now, guys. It's starting. The season is starting. The first phase of level 1 guys, they just did their first, you could call it like their initiation camp or whatever. They came on, and for 3 or 4 months, there's going to be an onboarding, an initiation of 10 to 20 to 30 new guys. We'll see how Lions Den grows, but it's going to be all the people that never did camps. It's more affordable. It's only $497 online. It's $997 to come live. The opportunity to meet AZD live, be here at the base, get the live lecture. I mean, you're not going to beat that. It's about to skyrocket because he's exploding, and it's just building in a different way. So this is the way that it goes both ways. There's a lowering that makes it more available for everyone. And then there's the raising of the next tier. Pretty soon I could see Lions Den completely integrating into just a monthly Beast Camp experience. That it's like a Lions Den Beast Camp, like blended kind of thing. That's basically what it is. We're just like building the system. He hasn't told me this stuff. This is me just talking out loud about it. But the phase 1 is very exciting because when you can talk about it with your brothers, especially when you know that your brothers are aligned with you on the human psychology of the official etiquette, like the genetic etiquette of male-female relationships and women, basically psychology of men and women, that's a code that underlies every other group's code. There's shared values that makes them a group. Underneath it has another code that they're not listening to, they're not aware of, and they're violating each other on, which is the male-female code. And women get between guys in any group and fucks it up. And that's not this group. This is MGTOW, but cool. It's actually a dangerous group. Like Navy SEALs, but not brittle. Like an athletic group, but woke. Like a hippie group, but solid. It's all that. So we got a few beasts here. We got Josiah, we got Jason, different people on different apps. If you guys want to speak up, if you guys got anything, now's a chance to unmute if you'd like to.
I wanted to speak on the experience of attending boot camps, the difference between attending live and actually attending from a distance online. So you think like attending online, you know, Arash is lecturing, you're going to the boot camp, and like in that moment you think that you know what he's talking about or the kind of person that he is. However, when you're attending live, I only attended twice, I think, 2 Beast Camp lives.
Right.
And it's you're right when you say it's a whole different experience. It's literally like another tier. So I'd say for those who have the opportunity, definitely attend online. It'll definitely be worth it.
What did you notice were differences? Like, with the online for you? Like, it's been a while since there's been many times that I've like had to attend online. In many ways, Lions Den every day is online for me. It's headphones, but I forget what it's like to go so long, being away from events like that. Like, what are online experiences like for you now?
The online experience is being able to tap in, or something I like to call like a source of power. So every day we have the Lions Den, we meet up every day. And for every man that attends, it's like a source of power. That's how we generate our energy for the day. And then when you compare it to actually attending live, the different experience comes when you're surrounded by all your brothers in IMC. We're all on the same kind of philosophy, the same kind of codes that goes on, and it's honestly not the same. It can't be the same.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. The best thing is going to be to base up. There's not going to be much else better than basing up. You got to build from the base up. Now you're in Hawaii, and the other Hawaii IMC Nation monk, I think he's moving very soon if he hasn't already. So, converting people to IMC, like I said, I think last night, we're gonna have to end this soon in a minute too, it's easier to befriend people, or it seems to be more likely to befriend people that are already interested in like the red pill everywhere. It's like red pill of every subject. This is the red pill lifestyle. And then you'll find them and they'll follow AZD because they like that brand of red pill because it's truer than any. And they'll find camaraderie. We find camaraderie here. Jason and I, and San Diego and I even, and Josiah and I, we're better friends than I would be friends with anybody that's not in IMC. Not that they don't have the potential, as long as they get introduced to information and like agree with it, whatever. And I can be very friendly with whoever, they're acting cool and I treat them how they act. But at a core level, I know that they don't have that honor code until I see that they have that honor code, until it's said. I don't leave anything to guesswork like that. And it's the same way with women too. If women were to find friendship more from women that also admire you versus trying to pull their friends into admire you, they should do both, really, just like you should do both as guys. Pull your friends in to admire the teachings in the IMC Nation and bring them to class when you come to class. And the women too should pull ladies into the Silent Flute or into the podcast that I do. But the core allyship, maybe you don't have to be that friendly. There's no have to's anyway, but there's not like the friendship like they have friendships. It's just like it's not a relationship like they have relationships. The relationship is not built on how much time you spend together each day holding hands. The relationship is built on the agreement and the solidarity and the trust of what is it going to be like when I'm not around, actually. That's the relationship. There's also the relationship in present, like in the presence of each other. But what is the relationship not in the presence of each other? That's where it is made visible really in your life. And your reasons for behaving in whatever way that you would as a woman towards your man are much more aligned with any other woman that's also willingly doing that for your man than any other woman in your life. Every other woman is not willingly being that way for your man and doesn't want to be, and maybe slightly admires how you are, but kind of in a backhanded way, where even if she liked it, she would be jealous and say it in negative ways. She'll slight it. She'll never fully admire, because to do that, to fully admire it, would be to herself be one of you like that. And so you're more likely to find your friends in IMC Nation, guys, that are people seeking IMC Nation, and girls, you're more likely to find your friends, but it's friends in the sense of the allyship. Now, in the sense of if there's 100 people in the group, you're probably going to find someone else that does yoga or that's very similar to you. If it's only 5 or 6 people in the group, you have an allyship. Maybe they're not in your age bracket for friendship, or maybe they're not in your subject of like what your expertise in, but you would actually get along in the sense that you could live together a lot better, a lot better. And that's kind of a measure because you're a human and you're not designed to necessarily live alone. That's not necessarily safe at all. The man is better able to survive alone. She can't survive alone at all. That's totally unsafe. It's pretty unsafe for him, but it's better in groups. Groups of guys, groups of girls. One guy in a group of girls is still unsafe because it's a big target. One guy, what's one guy going to do? Two guys and some girls, it's less safe for the outside, but internally, then there's the struggle between those guys. It's better guys and girls separated. Girls over there, guys over here. So phase one is tapping in, you know, and the online experience will give you the code. If you can't learn online, you can't learn live either. Got to be able to pay attention for that duration. You got to be able to hear information and apply it. Got to be able to speak up when you have questions. You'll get that experience and you'll tap into that energy. And it will always be a shock when you arrive, but you'll arrive with more awareness of what you're looking at and what you're looking for, instead of it just being so much sensation, because the movement is not uncommon. It's uncommon. And the intelligence is uncommon. We got Pete Kirkwood, for example. Pete Kirkwood is here on Clubhouse. I don't know if he's going to be able to speak, but if I introduced him, I would say this guy, he's been doing online for a long, long while because he's in New Zealand. He's been here live for a couple months at a time, did a few events. So he's experienced it live, lived with BC for a little while. So you could almost call that a base. I lived with BC and Pete was there. And I've lived with BC for some time, accumulative over time. And there were other guys that lived there also in and out different times, amounts of time. It was kind of like a precursor to the base. And, but this is a completely different thing. But it was IMC Nation guys living together. How dope. Pete was there for like 2 or 3 months there doing that live from New Zealand. He flew here, flew back, flew here again, stayed a few months, flew back. And now he's been online for like 1.5 years, 2 years. So it's a distant memory of being live. He wants to come live again. He will arrive live again. He might even stay. But what's it been like for you, Pete, being online? What is the growth like? How is it available to you to grow through online? What's the online Beast Camp experience been like for you?
This is perfect timing. I literally just parked the car. So, yeah, brother, it's funny how you say, like, when we were living with BC, it was like a precursor to the base, because I can see the base looking from the outside. I can see elements of it. And it was a very powerful experience, because a lot of the time you'll be around people in life who actually aren't anything to do with where you're going. They're just part of your environment, right? They were the child of your parents' friends who you grew up with because you were forced together all the time. That doesn't mean they want to go and achieve and build and grow themselves in life like you do. So often we end up in situations around people who are not very like us. And one of the things I really learned from living with you guys in LA was where a lot of the holes were in my beingness. Because when I'd lived with people who didn't really, really care about where they were going in life, you know, the party on the weekend was more important. They were going to get there in the end. It created habits and behaviors in me that I wasn't so aware of until I was in that situation with Chris, with BC. At that time, these guys had a lot more success than me in business. They'd spent a lot more time doing it. And I was in a foreign country. I was, you know, fish out of water in a sense. And it wasn't easy and it wasn't comfortable. But was it worth it? Fuck yes, it was.
Fuck yeah. Well, because the imprint and the mindset, man, and because you were a fish and now you're a beast, man, you've slimmed down so much. How much weight have you lost? Kilograms, pounds, whatever you measure.
Yeah, so it's at my heaviest, I was 114 kg. I've got up to around about, since I was in America, I got up to the high 90s, and I got that back down to 68 now.
So 30 kgs.
That's
So that's about 66 pounds Peter has lost. And you're about what? 5'4" 5'5", 5'6"?
Yeah, maybe a little bit taller than that, not much.
5'7". How many meters are you?
It's like 170, 180 something. I can't remember exactly.
All right. He's about 5'6". He lost 66 pounds. He went from about 210 pounds as a 5'6" man to, whatever he said, 68 kgs. So that's 136 plus 13.6. So that's about 150 pounds now. So we went from about 210 to about 150, right? And fit.
Exactly. And that process, right?
In a year.
In the past in my life, I'd done it in less than a year, brother, less. In the past, I'd gone from 255 pounds to 125 pounds. But what that took was my entire life. I had to change everything. I had to dedicate to it. There was no room for anything else. Whereas with the beasting process, what it actually did was it empowered my entire life. And I was gaining in many areas at the same time, not just losing weight. So
right.
It was intense how it gave me more than the weight, but the weight's the physical that you see. You don't see the inner work. You don't see that stuff until something happens and you actually have to face down some massive drama or demon or threat or confrontation or something. And you're like, wow, I'm handling this like a legend, especially when a normie person is around and you compare and you're like, bro, why can't you get it together? And then you realize you've evolved. And even not being able to physically go to a beast camp for like 2 years, my country doesn't like letting people in or out at the moment. I'm still able to tap into the energy of IMC. And one of the things I find the most fascinating is when you get around the mindset and you get around the people and you get on that wavelength, you start having cognitions and understandings and realizations that you're like, you know what? I think there's something to this concept of, let's say, for example, he who suffers the beast gains the most, right? This is a saying that I've sort of distilled from the process. And then you'll be thinking, maybe there's something on this. And then you'll turn up to like a Lion's Den or one of your podcasts or any of the IMC brothers, and someone will speak on it and you'll be like, damn, I was just thinking about that. Because we're all on that same wavelength, we actually are lifting each other up. And it's like you said, in the relationship, it's not about how we are when we're together. It's really important how we are when we're not together. And people don't understand with IMC, it's not just about when we're together. When we're not together, we're still actually empowering each other. It doesn't stop. It literally is like an upgrade for your life 100% of the time in 100% of the areas of your life. There's zero downside. There's maybe some confrontation, clearing out some trash in your life that's hanging around. But I could speak on this for hours. You know what I'm saying, Chris? Yeah,
well, we only have 8 minutes, and I really appreciate that. I think you'll resonate with where we're about to go with it. Pete Kirkwood, the real Pete Kirkwood from New Zealand, and he's got an event coming up on Saturday, California time. So that's in 5 days. It's going for $97, but for the next couple hours, it's a discount, $77. So if you're interested in that, we got a few people here on Zoom, other Instagram account, everything. Hit up the real Pete Kirkwood. What's your IG handle?
Yeah, brother. People can just DM me at the real Pete Kirkwood on IG.
Yeah, on IG.
Facebook me for Pete Kirkwood.
Yeah, you'll find
the event with Arash. It's not just me.
That's
He's
true.
Doing half of it.
That's true.
And what we really want to do is help some brothers make some money, because there's so much value within people.
Yeah.
And I want to help people unleash.
Well, Pete's been around for a while.
So
Pete's been around. Yeah, man. Pete's been around for a while. And so he knows a lot of how AZD has taught about money lines and money, energy flow and things like that. And he's going to maybe open your eyes to different avenues and perspectives that you may see money opportunities around you, in addition to like what to do with money. It's going to be money talks. It's going to be a very powerful talk. So if you're interested in that, then you want to hit up the real Pete Kirkwood on Instagram with a K, Kirkwood. So We also got Johnny Freedom in the house and Jason Miracle. You know, and what you were talking about there, Pete, you know, and this whole transformation. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, like in terms of that transformation, I mean, the power of IMC, it is available, and it's weird, right? Because if you're on the outside looking in, it almost seems like it's a different land. But at the end of the day, once upon a time, like school was a different land to you, but you went there and you learned it and you got involved. And
yeah, and this is a good example because the kids today and wearing the masks and all the slave shit that they do, they lose touch of the in-person communication. What happens when you go in person is you see a lot of the uncalibrated miscalibrations that are happening in between the communications, especially when you live with other IMC Nation guys. You see, because if you're always online, you can always put your best foot forward. You can always front. In person with the people, the moments in between the streaming is when you're interacting. And so you see a lot of that. And because IMC in its core, like what brought me to it, I was already yogi and I already had this quality, but the community of yogis that have similar qualities, they're too asleep on what's going on the genetic code, and they're enslaved to the mind programming of the culture and the society about how to treat men and women and babies and young people and old people. And it's just the people have lost their values and they're seeking solace internally, but without taking a stand for anything externally. And that's very weak. So the beasting process is not final. It is a step and it will evolve. And so we're doing it. The second class is coming through. We got July 23 and 24. I'm giving the Lion's Den Book of Notes, the 67-page PDF ebook of the first 248 lectures from the Lion's Den. You get a lot in there about the beasting process and philosophy. And so you want to come to that. So it's the basic, when you base up, Freedom Ranger can probably join in on that. So Freedom, you started base 2, and you're very similar to me because you are a nomad with your business, wandering where the business takes you, and your communication is your greatest asset. So that's exactly how I was coming up with yoga as a travel business. So you're here, you got your hand up, basing up. Is it true that you get away with a lot less of your bullshit because you have eyes on you that have high standards all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I raised my hand, because I just wanted to second that. I mean, yeah, being online or, you know, just showing up to one event or two, you can put your best foot forward, like you said, and just kind of put up a front, because, you know, really, and then, okay, and there's just like a description of what I experienced, but I observe this in others too when they come to events, like especially in the first event. You know, I try to show, hey, look, man, I'm a beast. You know, like I try to show like my good qualities, right?
Mhm.
But when you're in a base, I mean, number one, the reason why we're showing up to one of these events is because we know there's something we want to improve. So, being at a base, it keeps you in check, and you can. So, number one, you see the miscalibrations. You know, when there's communication, and you're more on your toes in a way, because when you communicate miscalibratedly.
Yeah, I would even say, alert.
Yeah, and when I say on my toe, yeah, I mean, and that's another thing actually, to calibrate is being on your toes, quote unquote, because you don't want to always be on your toes.
Yeah,
and so finding comfort in the fucking up, that's a major thing right there. Finding the comfort, like knowing, okay, you fucked up, and it's not okay that you're fucking up, and you got to fix that shit. And it's weird, like me, for example, it helps me a lot when I'm out, for example, petitioning. I'm out in the public because, you know, if you have weird, like, antisocial habits, you're going to repel a lot of people. So being out there or being around base 2, you can't just get away with that shit. And it's good, because the reason why you're lacking in certain areas in life is because you need to fix your communication. So yeah, that's one of those areas that just being on top of myself has really created a lot of comfort. and a lot of improvement in that area.
It's cool.
So,
I'm hearing, yeah, man. I mean, it's gratifying to hear how you talk about it because, you know, you've been in the silent flute for a long time, and I've heard you talk for a long time there. Because only recently in the last year have you really been talking around in IMC Nation, even though you've been around, but you're talking more. I've heard you talking in the silent flute, so I hear the change in your voice, your communication, and anybody that heard those old lectures would hear you chime in sometimes, and they would notice the difference. So, you know, that's really cool being on this path like that. And definitely being able to accept those, you know, those reflections from your brothers, because nobody's harder on themselves than these people that go through the self-development process and the red pill with relationships at the same time. Like there's a lot of losing friends and losing quote relationships because this information does not align with what the culture and society would give you. And, you know, on top of that, to then be able to be around other people that are like you, that, like I said, the code that is bringing us together is underlying any other code that could be bringing us together. So that's really good. So all the women that follow you, they follow you for more right reasons than some big influencer that has a bunch of women following him, but he's confined. And for him to break free will totally disintegrate the castle he's built on sand, because the sand is the foundation and the genetic code is the foundation of how people interact. And so the honesty is primarily an honesty here at this level. And then everything else is superfluous on top of that. Really, the genetic code is superfluous on spirituality, but that makes life stop going forward. So we can practice spiritual contentment, but we want to master the game as well, or it's just all for naught, really. Thanks everyone for attending. Every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific. Share this, follow, like, subscribe, sign up right now for the Beast Camp that's coming up. Send me a DM and sign up for it. Payments are available if it's needed, but that needs to be assessed real hard. And I'll see you next time on Behavior Code. Os.